Hey guys, it's Ian here with Bad Throws Good Bros. Dave and I are super excited to bring you guys season 2 of the podcast, Huck and Pray. And we got a banger to kick it off for you guys. No intro quite yet. We're saving that for later on. I hope you guys enjoy this interview we did with the one and only Eric Oakley.
Well, Eric,
Did
thank you so much for joining us. This has been
Appreciate
a
it.
long time in the making. I feel like.
Yeah, I agree. I
Uh,
agree with that completely.
Um, how was your season, man? What went on throughout the season? Highlights, lowlights.
Europe was great. That would be the highlights. Outside of European Open, I felt like I went out there and played some solid golf. Plus, I really enjoyed the golf that I got to play out there. Um, the rest of the season was kind of uh, play wise was not my best, and I know that. And there was plenty that went into that, and um, it's always hard because the courses are getting infinitely harder and sometimes not harder in the ways that I personally would like to see. So that is a struggle point for myself that I have to process through. But a couple big highlights along with that were the events that I got to be a part of and run, like coming through another round in Denver and Salt Lake City and popping up to the Infinite um, distribution center, going to see Trash Panda's headquarters. Um, After OTB, we did skins at Brooks Trails, which is just kind of like north of San Francisco, quite a ways, but on an amazing, beautiful course in the redwoods on an old golf course, was awesome. So that was like super good highlights, and then again, the whole Europe scene was top tier. So I felt those things were super good, and I mean, biggest low light was getting injured at MVP and having my season come to an end a lot earlier, which is a bummer. But first time I've really had an injury that has actually made me miss time. So had to drop after the first round. I couldn't throw a disc 300 feet. So like I don't, you're not going to play Maple Hill if you can't throw 300 feet. It was a bit
Yeah,
like I could throw a forehand, but I'm not Chandler Kramer where I can rely that heavily on my forehand. I think my forehand's really good, but not to the same practice that his is. So that was a tough point, but it is what it is, and I guess not necessarily season related. I have a lot of cool things that I'm kind of processing and working through for the upcoming season in this off season, and I feel really cool about some of the things that could present themselves. And yeah, I'm just excited, fully excited.
Heck yeah.
awesome. Sounds like a blast
Sweet.
of a season.
It is. It's up. We're all over, and
Mm-hmm.
like there's an outside chance that I go to Europe for like 2 or 3 months this year because obviously it was such an amazing point for me. But going forward, it could be like, why not spend more time there,
Totally.
especially with more pro tour events happening over there. It doesn't. It's not like I'm necessarily missing out on anything big. You know what I mean? I actually get to go and play and see beautiful places and interact. While I have the means and while I have the time, so why not go for it? So
What
Totally.
would you
yeah,
say the biggest difference is between playing in Europe versus the US? Like the
great
courses and
question.
the people and everything are obviously like very different. But like
Totally.
for you personally, what's the biggest draw to going over there and playing?
All right. So opinion based. While I
Hmm.
say this, because this is
Yeah.
like I might offend some course designers and people in the states by saying this. It's like there are, and this is what I personally like about those courses, is that I have agency over how my round goes for the most part. Like I would say 80 to 90% of the holes and courses, if not more, over there, there's nothing out there trying to get you. Not like, haha, gotcha, like weird mechanics or like rules or slow, like horrendously sloped greens to OB way inside the circle to any of that stuff. There's a few holes that are like that, but they're very manageable and they do present their own teeth. But if you're executing the shots that you think you should, those on those holes, you're generally going to get the result. Where when we're in the States, some courses have gotten harder I put that in quotes for a reason, that have gotten harder, but it's more like, if it did you get punished? Because often what happens is we are taught to throw a disc inside the circle. That's what we want to be doing as professionals, to give ourselves a putt, even inside circle 2. And you can throw a disc at a lot of courses right now. You could throw a disc to 20 feet from the basket and find yourself in and out of bounds. And that's not really enjoyable. And I know that in some cases, there's a place to miss on one side, to where if you're 20 feet on this side of the basket, you're in bounds, but on 20 feet on this side. But when you're talking about us throwing 400 to 500-foot shots into these greens, that's not very controllable. If I'm throwing a 200-foot shot into the green and I miss to the wrong side, that's on me. And that's what happens in Europe. It's not a 450-foot shot into a tight green. It's a placement shot to a 250-foot shot that you might have to hit a gap and place it somewhere. That feels great, and that doesn't feel gimmicky, or it doesn't feel anything like that. So that agency is something that I truly enjoy. So one, if I go and throw the disc well, I feel it. Two, if I throw the disc poorly, I know what I need to work on. And courses in the States, some courses in the States, let's also preface that it's not every course, but some courses in the States, you can end up throwing the disc the same back to back days, what feels the same, because that's what we're trying to do, to be consistent. And the result is not consistent. The result is very different. You can be 8 strokes different, and by missing, by what doesn't, by not feeling like you missed, feeling like you threw the same shots, similar conditions, and the separation can be that wild of your own scoring. So that's not to the scoring to how players are playing. That's just into your own things that can happen. And to me, that is why Europe feels so much better. And just yeah, I don't know, we all want to be in control a little bit, right? Like,
Yeah.
over our destiny,
Yeah.
especially in disc golf. Like, yeah, so that is a big part of it. The culture over there is incredible. The um how most of those countries are run, as well, as far as like, not just in disc golf, just in like in general, they're beautiful places and very clean, easy to get around. Transportation's great. Estonia, like, we stayed in Tallinn, but hopped on one of those like rented scooters that you just scan from an app on your phone, and then just 15 minutes, pop your headphones in and rip to the course, and then you're at the course playing in an amazing festival grounds that's felt super professional, even though that was probably, if I had to say, one of the weaker courses, but one of the best venues of
Sure.
that we got to play over there. So it was still epic in its own right. In its own right. So yeah, that all of that plays into it pretty heavily, of some of the things that I enjoyed.
Yeah, that whole one there looks incredible. Just throwing out of the stadium there into that
It was
field.
cool. It was
Yeah.
cool. It was really cool. And the finishing hole is like just the opposite, down on the big downhill.
Yep.
It's pretty epic. They did a good job. This I'm looking forward to going back for the major.
That
Nice.
one thing I noticed they did that I kind of liked was they had like an actual podium for the finishers
Yeah, that was
there
cool.
versus just like running out into the basket and being like, "Here's your trophy, now talk."
Totally,
Like,
totally. They definitely did a good job of kind of amplifying the professionalism and making it feel like very, very professional. So I like, event staff and everybody over there did a great job. And every event that I went to, from Turku to Ale, which was the best course in the world, it's not even close. Immers Garden for Swedish Open. Krokel was wildly beautiful. Krokel's the only one that had like, every hole had was basically a death putt, which got a little annoying. But again, that was a place where there were places to miss, but that left you with a death putt. So you just had to like make good decisions or feel really good about your putt, and then you could play very well there. So, and then European Open was insane. The weather was probably one thing that I think hurt it the most. But yeah, across the board was just so much fun.
That's so sick.
awesome.
Yeah, you guys got to go at some point. Like,
I
if the opportunity presents itself, go to Europe, Finland, Norway, Sweden, anywhere over there is well worth the time.
I want to make a trip out there. I was just in Flagstaff 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
Have you
place
ever,
is dope.
have you ever played there?
I played the the main course that's out
Okay.
there, like the wooded track that I think everybody plays like when they go out there.
Mhm.
Super good.
One of my best friends, he grew up, or not grew up, he went to college there, and
Yeah.
we both got into disc golf, and I went to Flagstaff. Didn't tell him because he's in Phoenix now. Played around there, and I was like, wow, I just shot 8 under at a course last time I played. I think I was 8 over. So
Totally.
I'm
Hey,
excited to go
see the
travel
growth,
more.
baby.
Yeah,
Hell yeah.
I'm excited to go travel more for disc golf. Like we went to Colorado for
Yeah.
a fun little tournament.
Sweet.
Um, Europe's on the bucket list though. Maybe in a few years.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not going anywhere. They are doing amazing things, and the membership's only growing, and the courses are only growing. So it's a big win.
Yeah.
Big win.
Sweet.
Nice.
Sweet, sweet.
So you started your disc golf journey here in Utah, though, right?
Essentially, yeah. I
So
picked up
sort
the
of.
game in Dallas. Like I grew up in Dallas Fort Worth, and then I really came to my playing at a higher level in Utah whenever I moved there. I was only there for a year. Um, but I was working at the McGillis School, which is down by the U in Salt Lake, and I was working the after school program, so I had every morning to go and play disc golf. So I was at Roots, or if I got up early enough, I went to Creekside, and I was just there ripping discs with Chris Telesbo, uh, who used to be a incredibly talented Utah disc golfer until his body decided to not like disc golf for him anymore because he's a big dude. He's a big beautiful man, and I'm a big
Mm-hmm.
fan. But yeah, that kind of uh, sidelined him for quite some time. But yeah, we were just constantly playing, and we were always playing against each other, and we were at a similar skill level, so that really kind of ramped our like play up to a
Mhm.
point. When you're playing a competitive round, I don't know, 5 days out of the week, that's pretty crazy. Like you're gonna start to not make as many mistakes. You're gonna start to throw the disc better. If your buddy beats you by 2, you're gonna be like, all right, I need to stay back and putt a little bit more. I need to throw a couple extra shots, and that was a beautiful thing. And it's why I kept Utah as my PDGA address, since my folks still live in Salt Lake City. I had it there for a while because I felt so connected with Utah disc golf in that way. But then I came back, and it was like there was like 100 new disc golfers, and I was like, what the heck happened? Like I left for 2 years, and I don't recognize anybody. So that was
Yeah.
a which is like, dang it, why wasn't this happening when I was there? But also it was like, this is so cool to see Utah disc golf and Salt Lake City disc golf and the surrounding areas up to Ogden get the love it deserved because
Mm-hmm.
the courses are very fun.
Yeah. Um, have you had a chance to play any of the new mountain layouts? So like Brighton got put in and
No,
Solitude got
no.
some no.
I mean, all
Is-
I know is Old Solitude with the letter holes was a
oh, the one.
humbling experience, and also really taught me, coming from Texas where it's not much elevation, and or learning to throw uphill downhill stuff, that was really important and helped me when I went on tour, because when we went to places with hills and shots that required elevation change, I had practiced it. So I
Mm-hmm.
would say that there was a lot of benefits to that. Also, in Utah, I had to throw really freaking hard just to make a disc go anywhere. So when I went, that also helped. I do think that there's a level of the Colorado and Utah golfers tend to have some big arms. And I think the Texas and like Kansas golfers tend to, because they're throwing in the wind a lot. But I think a lot of that pairs super well with distance, and that's why the Eagles of the world are kind of a paramount of distance throwing.
Mm-hmm.
So
So one thing Ian and I have talked about a lot is like seeing it would be fun to see the Pro Tour come out here and play some of those mountain courses
yeah,
because I feel like
solid
you don't get to see that
Solitude
a
would be the
lot.
one.
Yeah.
If I obviously I haven't played Brighton,
Well,
but if Solitude would get behind it and you were to figure out a really good layout, hopefully making use of the letter holes and putting in some better pads plus baskets, it would be very good.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very, very good. And it would be awesome. And I think it would be a fine addition to the tour to have a mountain course,
I feel
because we
like
have golf courses, we have wooded tracks. That would be the third element that we'd like
Yeah.
to see.
Yeah, like you only have like toboggan that's really like the big downhill, uphill
Sure.
kind of shots. Like, but there is no mountain golf, and I feel like you're leaving out a big section of the U.S. and even in Europe,
Agreed.
probably that would have that kind of style of golf.
Yeah, and some of it's based on that it's difficult to get people to those venues and
Mm-hmm.
house that many people. I think Solitude could do it. You know, they have enough
Mhm.
parking; they could shuttle people from the upper lots and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Working with the other places, I think it could work. Yeah, I agree. I tend to agree. Toboggan's close, but Toboggan has been, in opinion based, is has been, if you look at the back nine, the scoring was terrible. So that was one of those courses where there was no agency,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, like weirdly enough, like you don't want a course that does that when you have courses like, and I didn't play the Preserve this year, but I love that the Preserve always has 6+ people in contention with 8 holes to go,
Mm-hmm.
and that's like that keeps you glued to the television. When Gannon Burr is winning by 6 with 5 to play, you're like, well, turn it off.
Yeah.
Like it's not that good. And I think that on courses where, like a Toboggan, where you don't have much scoring separation on the back, like it's not going to happen. So you just,
Totally.
like you watch the front nine, then it's like, okay, cool, he's got a few stroke lead, he shouldn't blow this, so easy. But
Yeah.
that's, again, I digress, because I'm just at that point just complaining about the courses again, and that's
Yeah.
just not what we're here to do. And it is just a great example where if we were at Solitude on a mountain golf course and it was done well, it would be epic. Because think about playing 18 with some OB, the big downhill at Solitude with
Hmm.
OB on the sides or anything, like huge swings. Because if you like don't hit your disc properly and it flips over and goes early right, and you just call it, you like have people lining to flag the OB line, like that would really change some scoring. Because
Yeah.
if you go out of bounds early, getting to the bottom of the hill is not like a guarantee, especially if you're playing out
No.
in the field. You know what I mean? So there's so
Yeah.
much cool things that can be done. I remember, when the coverage when Eagle was at Solitude, and he was throwing a couple of those really epic downhill shots, like the downhill hyzer that plays, and the next hole is like kind of like a flex out with the creek, where
It was
they played the combined.
6 to 8 basket.
Yes, that was it. That was it.
Yeah,
That one is epic. That hole is
I've
so cool.
I've accidentally thrown that fairway before, and I was like, that disc is just gone forever.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep. Yep.
It's
you turn something over and it's in those trees outright, and you're like, all right,
Yep.
well, I'm just gonna go
I'll miss
down
you.
and yep.
it's insane. And Eric, I think you would really like Brighton. Like, if you get a
Okay.
chance, go watch Central Coast coverage on Utah State's.
Okay. I will.
Kessler Martin, Kai Kim, Joe Kozlowski, and I can't remember who's the fourth on the card.
Dope. I'll absolutely will
But
check it out.
like, we were
Oh,
there.
Brock
Brock
was.
Brock Shepard.
Oh,
Yeah.
Brock Shepard, what a legend.
Yeah, he's still out and kicking. It's crazy.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah.
But we go up there after our round, and we go
Hmm.
watch like these pros on my favorite course I've ever played, like full 18.
All right. All
Like
right.
if it was where Creekside is to my
Mhm.
house, which is 15 minutes, I would be there every day, no
Living
matter
there.
what the weather.
I love it.
40-mile-per-hour wind there,
Let's go.
downpouring blizzard. I'm there. I love that course. It's amazing.
Sick. Well, I'm
So
I'm very interested. I have reasons to come back. Not only you guys or in
mhm.
another round Salt Lake, but and Infinite Discs, like not too far. But my
Yeah.
folks are there, so I definitely have reasons to be hitting up that part of the time. It's like, also, I think the only part that sucks is that never I'm always there before a lot of the mountain courses open as
Mhm.
we rip through heading west, and then I'm in Europe for that other stretch. But I can we can make something happen.
Yeah.
Why not? I used to live in Utah. I could try and go play Utah States one year if they play it up there.
Oh yeah.
Might be a cool
I think
might be a cool
Utah.
one to just for.
I think Utah State's will be at Brighton for the foreseeable future, or at
That's
least
good to hear.
being
Yeah.
one of the courses, if not.
Cool.
Yeah.
I love to hear that.
So super sick.
Heck yeah.
All right. We have a few questions on sponsorships and deals.
Cool.
So you're sponsored by Infinite,
Mhm.
Thought Space.
Yep.
You have whale sack. Are
Yep.
there any others we missed? We tried to look in, but
Uh, Alpha Discs out of Norway and Birdie Fuel Coffee. Vivo Barefoot is I have a deal with them. It's just like kind of an ambassadorship with a code. So I think
mm-hmm.
it's Eric, just Eric Oakley capital A, like all capitals, or maybe by Eric Oakley 10. I'm not totally sure.
Okay.
And that I get a kickback from that, which is amazing. Vivos are pretty good. Disc Golf Strong, I would say I'm sponsored by Seth Munsey's absolutely amazing in so many ways and has helped disc golf grow. Mad Discs, which they're a disc dyer out of the Charlotte, no, not really Charlotte, like Rock Hill, South Carolina area. They're just some really great homies. So yeah, I got a bunch of those little ones. Hoping to, yeah, keep working with like almost every single one of those companies if we can going forward, and potentially collaborating with a few more in the future if the opportunities present themselves.
Sweet. Um, our big question was like, what do your sponsors do for you? Like the
Mm-hmm.
big ones, so Infinite, Thought Space. Um, what do you have to do for them? And then for local pros trying to get sponsored,
Mm-hmm.
what would your advice be if you're trying to go in that direction?
Love it, love it. So Infinite, Thought Space, Alpha, Whale Sex, all those they provide some monetary, uh, value to me as far as like some guaranteed money to tournament entries, to providing discs, to product in general, and royalties being a real kind of cool one that helps foot the bill. So that's why when people say it's like, please buy a Tour Series disc or Signature Series disc, like why it's so important is because not only does that, or Signature Series Whale Sack or whatever, the the company wins. The person who's buying the disc wins, and the player whose name is on that disc wins. So there's like, this is three ways to win, because if the company sees that, wow, Eric Oakley Dynasties sold out and sold a ton of them, then they're more likely to want to support said player. So um, I know that there are a lot of Signature Series and Tour Series discs out there, but those are some of the best ways to keep players on the road, and also to show to the companies that you like to support the value that those players are providing. And I would say that that's a big part of what those companies are currently doing for me. What I'm expected of me is just to be a solid representative, post, sell discs, and promote, like do what I can in that regard. Uh, and for players who are aspiring, first and foremost, the best way to do it is go be really good at disc golf. Like that is like the easiest way.
Yeah.
And in that, most players who are really really good, there's very few who are just really good but don't do any of the social media side. Not everyone can be Calvin Heimberg. Calvin Heimberg has had an amazing uh, ability to not have that much of a social media presence and still be one of the most well loved and liked people. I will say that anything he's been on Jomez or OTB Skins or anything like that has helped showcase how amazing of a person he is. But he didn't do this. He didn't do that on his own. He was fortunate enough to be a gem of a human being
Mm-hmm.
and played incredibly good, where he didn't need to rely on social media. And then the boost of he ends up being a social media icon because he's, put the pizza in the oven, to the sunglasses, all that stuff that he did made him very marketable in that way. So, but early on, he just was a player. Not everybody can do that. Simon
Mm-hmm.
Lizotte, one of the best players we know, does a lot of social media stuff. Eagle, same. When Brody was in it, he was very social media heavy, and we're seeing it more from players. So play really good, do the social media stuff, and try and there's not many avenues where you're reinventing the wheel or anything like that these days. But if you can find ways to stand out with what you're doing, whether that's finding a new niche for disc reviews. I look at Anthony Bedanza, who I think was the first, not the first, but one of a great amateur player aspiring to be a pro, and he is very much on track for that. He's a great golfer, and I think he has every bit of potential to get there and to be, it could be a touring player if he, it's a time thing. It's not just like I grinded for a year. Why am I not a touring golfer? It
Yeah.
takes a lot longer than that. But what he did well was he marketed himself better than most pros, even myself included, at a lot of places.
Yeah.
So his discs sell very well. He's cultivated a fan following in that regard, and that those are the ways that I think can help you stand out and take things to the next level in being a sponsored player. So if you're running events, that's another good way, but you're going to be on that ambassador level team, which is a great place to start and then prove your worth. And um, often when working with companies, don't go in asking for the things that you want. Provide them with what you plan on doing. If you go into a company and you say, I have a plan to do this, 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 I'm gonna have a blog, I'm gonna do disc reviews, I'm gonna do this, and you're pushing it out there, you're giving them more reason to want to pick you up as a player. And um, yeah, it doesn't always have to be play wise. I mean, I was a
Mm-hmm.
960 something rated golfer whenever I got picked up, and but that was, I was doing a lot of social media. I had a blog. I was doing whatever I could to stand out and push in a different direction, and that eventually was seen. And I was doing that work whether Discmania was gonna pick me up or not. And um, I happened to show up at the right time, and kind of the rest is history. Because if I didn't do so and take the chance when I did, I would never have been asked to eventually take over the RV for the year or so that I was in it, and then I was able to be on tour for ever since then. So I feel
Mm-hmm.
very fortunate to them, and very fortunate that I took that leap. So I guess that's a part of the whole concept of, yeah, try and go above and beyond and take a leap as far as for those companies. And even if that company doesn't see it, you're still doing it because you love the game. You're not doing it because you wanted to be sponsored. I think that can sometimes get lost when
Mm-hmm.
you're in it.
I think one thing that made you stand out, at least for me, was that you have a very unique form, and it
Hmm.
was always very fun to watch. Where did that come from?
Steve Brinster back in 2000, early 2000s. I watched him on a USDGC video that I think it was pre YouTube, but my buddy just pulled it up, downloaded it, and I saw somebody do that, and I went and threw that way the next day, and then that just stuck because I was throwing the disc a little bit farther and a little bit more accurate. And
Mm-hmm.
the arm up was all me, but it was just me having really bad form, and then I got good doing it. I was able to, quickly reach the, you know, 400-foot mark, and I was like, well, that's pretty good. And I was able to reach a lot of holes that people were throwing drivers on with mid ranges, and then I was like, why would I stop? And I mean, look at Garrett Gerthy, who has the arm up stuff, but his form is pretty insane when it comes down to that. So a lot of that I just picked up, and then just sheer repetition is what got it to be consistent. I would not advise, and I would not say anybody should try and do that. But if you have the time, like, you can make a lot of things work as long as the core mechanics are good. Because if you look, like, outside of my run up, hand up, but once I'm starting to pull through, it looks very similar to most other players' form. It's
Mm-hmm.
just I want to make sure that I have everyone's attention when I'm throwing by throwing my hands in the air and jumping in the air.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
I've noticed I've been going through a lot of like form stuff myself this season. And I was in the shop one day and someone's like, "You throw like Eric Oakley just without the hop and step." I was like, "What do you mean?" And pulled up a side by side video, and like our reach
The
back
arm.
and the
Yeah.
arm and all that is like identical. I'm like,
Love it.
I have never even noticed that till now. But
It's, again, if you get to a good hit point, like, it's very good. So
mm-hmm.
I would put it that way, is like, there are things that can happen in throw that will take away from it. But if you're
Totally,
not losing much, and you're still rotating quickly, and you're getting everything behind the disc, like, own it.
yeah,
Absolutely own it.
Yeah, I've been taking some lessons lately and trying to work
Sweet.
on some stuff, and it's getting better. I feel like this summer definitely put some more distance and accuracy and control behind a lot of shots, and still a long ways to go, but
Love it.
getting there.
Stay on that grind. It's well worth it.
Yeah, day by day. So, do you got the next question, Dave? Or I got one.
Sure.
I got one here
Go,
too.
go for it, Ian.
Okay, so you and James Proctor, this tour bromance.
Hmm.
How did that start?
So it was so we started last year into this year. The end of 2022, he was popping around, had a tail end, like he did like a half tour. He jumped in with Chandler Fry, and Chandler's dad came out for, I think it was MVP, and so James jumped in with me. I was totally fine with it, and we started talking. Just theorizing what the next year could be like if he jumped in and we traveled together. We like this is the one of the few times that I've ever traveled with somebody where we drove from Worcester, Massachusetts, all the way down to Charlotte, North Carolina, and we didn't listen to a single like song or anything of music. Like we just talked the
Okay.
whole time. And it was a really amazing, amazing interaction, which then led to us then, making the whole tour partnership happen. And we're both kind of hopeful that we can keep doing it. Obviously, there's going to be different ways we do that where we're not always going to play the same events. I might be going to Europe for an extended period of time, so we're still going to try and do as much as we can going forward. But that was when it really started, and we killed it last year, and then this year was pretty great. I think he was early on in the season was a little distracted because he was getting married, and I mean a beautiful marriage that it is, and him and Emily are absolutely meant for each other, and they're a couple of beauties. And into like him playing insane disc golf, winning two pro tours and everything. So I know that that can change the trajectory of his career, and I
Hmm.
want to support that in any way I can as a friend and a teammate in whatever ways. So he's amazing. He's one of the best people I've met. His outlook on disc golf, his outlook on life is kind of unrivaled. And yeah, if you're not a James Proctor fan, like you need to get yourself checked out, man. Like there's no reason not to. He's an absolute gem.
Do you think if you were on the bag at MVP, he wouldn't have thrown it OB and had to make that putt?
Honestly, the way he functions, he was never checking scores. Like, and I think at that point, he would have been mad if I would have tried to interject. And I think that's the kind of part as a caddy you got to know. And Ali did a fantastic job.
Hmm.
Because I've been on in the bag for him a few times. Like, he shot a course record at Maine States, the final round. We were vibing. I looked at the scores. I kind of knew, and I think he might have asked me on like 18, and I was like, yeah, just birdie, dude. Like you got it. Like if you birdie, you put pressure on. But Harry just went out and decided to shut the door. He played absolutely insane. The coverage is pretty great of his golf. Nobody got to really see James's round, but it was really impressive. It was just he does this thing super well where when he's playing his best, he is not doing anything insane outside of his putting. He is just giving himself a look because he knows how good he is at putting. So what that looks like is he's just hitting the gap. He's throwing whatever disc he feels the most comfortable with hitting the gap,
Hmm.
and he's great at that. So he can just pick the right disc, and he's generally going to be close because he's that good of a thrower. But in doing so, he's not thinking about I want to hit the gap, I want it to break here, I want it to fade back, and I want it to skip and go here. He's just like nope, gap. He's making the game so simple, and that part of it of doing the simple things right. Because if you were to play a wooded track and you say you're going to hit 18 of 18 gaps, you'd be like, yeah, sign me up. And even if that means you had uh, 10 40-footers and, eight putts were inside the circle, you would still take that. You would, even if it was 50-footers, you'd still would take that. Like if
Hmm.
that's what if that was going to be the result of it. And so, yeah, I think that that's it was a really fun thing to watch and experience. And that's, I mean, James is so good,
Yeah,
so unbelievably good.
yeah. Were you there when he sank that putt on 18?
I unfortunately was not.
Oh,
It was a weird point for me, and he completely understood. I was literally in the car driving home crying because I wasn't there for him.
yeah.
But yeah, he was like, "Dude, you were there. Like, don't act like you weren't there. Like, you all that we've been through and everything." It's like, again, this leads to how amazing of a person he is. He's like, "Yeah, I didn't like you were there. You've supported me for the last couple of years. Like, it doesn't matter if I'm there or not." So,
Hmm.
um, the what we've been through as touring partners and as teammates and as friends, like, doesn't the physical nature of it does not mean that the support isn't felt. So that
Totally.
was again unreal. I was watching it. I was driving. It was not very safe, but if I wasn't gonna miss it for anything, it was absurd,
Yeah.
absolutely absurd.
No, it was crazy to watch.
Yeah, that one of those moments of like not holy shot esque, but definitely one of the kind of most clutch moments we've seen in disc golf in quite some time.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
for sure. We had a whole conversation about that. Like,
Nice.
it's not quite the holy shot, but it sure is close. Like, it
Yeah,
is.
it's not an easy putt, mind you. Like,
No.
it's like it is not like he made it look easy since he did it back to back, but it is not like, yeah, it's crazy.
Insane.
Just the moment and everything around it kind of brought in that extra like yeah,
Epicness to it.
Hmm.
And also he's
exactly.
just a gem. Like, the dude's so good. He's so nice and so, and he's out there caddying for Ella or Evelina or who or Allie or Allie actually has Mary, but you know what I mean. He's just like he's out there interacting with people in such a positive way. Like, there's no, I don't know if we'll see another person like James in our
Hmm.
sport. Like, just the amount of um the amount of positivity he has surrounding him in so many ways is kind of unrivaled.
Yeah.
I mean, I aspire to be like that, but I don't know if I think that's something so innate in him and so unique to him that we just need to cherish and
Yeah.
um, appreciate him while we have him
Yeah.
in the sport.
For sure.
Speaking
Speaking.
of,
Speaking of
oh,
the
oh.
holy shot, dang Dave, we're on the same. We got the same mind going today.
Same brain.
Same brain. Go for it.
Well, I was actually going to go the other route, but um, I was going to ask what your favorite card, if you could build your favorite card, who would be on it?
Great question. Chris Dickerson is up there. We vibe super well. It's generally like feels like a practice round where we're just kind of making fun of each other and having a good time, get serious when we need to. It helps to have somebody I generally vibe very well with. Him and Brittany are, I would consider, very close friends and people that I can be real with. So that's always a big win. James is up there. Chandler Fry is up there. One old school guy that I think is probably one of the best players I've ever played with as a card mate and golfer goes is Bobby Music out of the SoCal area. Used to be sponsored by Innova, sponsored by Legacy in the past. He's a gem of a person and human being. Zach Melton is up there. Calvin Heimberg's up there. But yeah, if I had to really choose, I'd probably go. I would. The homie card would be Dickerson. Proctor Fry, I think, was an easy one to go right now, and then all time would put Bobby Music in that category as a perfect person to be out there with us. So
Hmm.
Paul Macbeth also I tend to get along very well with when we play together. He's a good dude. He's from the very first round I played with him at Wintertime Open. Man, when I was, yeah, it was like 2016, 2015, 2016. Um, I just started joking around with him from the get go, and our friendship slash you know disc golf relationship or whatever you want to call it has pretty much been that ever since. So I'm happy that I can kind of be me and just kind of shoot the shit with him. It's great.
Sick.
Heck yeah.
Sick. Um. You have 4 MPO wins. Am I correct
Mm-hmm.
on that?
It is.
91,000 career earnings on PDJ.
Where is that money? I'm looking at my
Um,
bank account. It ain't there. I'm just kidding. There's just expenses, life expenses.
no,
I know.
Yeah.
we get it. Your highest rating ever was 1024, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
How many times did you hit that?
I think I've only hit it once or twice. I've hovered in the 1020s for quite some time. I've taken a little dip now with, being in the 10 teens is not something to laugh at. Especially with the golf that I played towards the tail end, it totally makes sense to see the dip in rating. Crazy part about, I I I have 4 wins. None of them are big tour wins, but most of the events that I've played have been, somewhat on tour stops, outside of like the B tier and the C tier that I had, which was an XC tier, so it was a flex start, and but I did shoot like 1060 something rated golf to do so it wasn't like I
Mm-hmm.
was scrubbing it up and scraping by. Um, but Fort Steely was the first one. I mean, it was like Paul Ulibarri, Cameron Messerschmidt, Eagle McMahon, Dustin Keegan, Chris Waugh, a bunch of great players, Shasta Chris. So it was like good players at the time when I took it down. I was 960 rated when I won that one, and then Foxwood was my most recent win in Canada, and I went out and just kind of showed up. I think I did the math like the way I was talking about with James, just giving yourself a putt. I was out of 54 holes, I was putting for birdie on 53, something like that. I had one time where I went OB off the tee and then tapped in my par, I believe.
Wow.
And so it was like one of those types of tournaments where, and mind you, sometimes that was putting for birdie from 100 feet away,
Mm-hmm.
but that's the easiest par. I was jump putting for
Mhm.
a chance at birdie, and I was taking easy pars. So I'd never really stressed in that tournament, and that was an event where I didn't throw. I was on a golf course and I didn't throw any distance drivers, really off the tee because I was not very feeling good about my distance drivers. But I could throw at the time was the dynamic disc evader. I could throw that thing, 400 feet. So I was just 400 feet, 7-speed fairway driver in the middle of the fairway every single time. So
Mm-hmm.
that was kind of another aspect of the golf that made it so easy. And there was a couple holes that set up really easy for my forehand, which was um, allowed me to just pick up simple birdies. So it was very cool and a really well run event. So hats off to that crew. The other part of it is I have those 4 wins, but I have been touring the majority of my career, and I've never played amateur events.
Yeah.
I've only played pro events. So that's the kind of crazier part is like that number is going to look small, and I'm trying to hype it up and talk big about it because that's what I'm supposed to do, right? But giving context is like
Yeah.
I had I have toured the majority of my career. So the amount of events that I've played on tour compared to the amount of events that I've played that are off tour is that number continues to separate itself as far as the drastic difference and disparity between the two is kind of wild.
Totally.
Yeah.
But
It's
I love it though.
context is everything, right? It's
Yeah.
like if you have a win going and playing at your local C tier and, the highest rated person's like 920, it's like, oh, well,
Yeah,
yeah,
like a local dude in Utah is gonna rack up a ton of wins, and they're quality golfers. But who's to say that I couldn't do the same, or who's to say they couldn't come out on tour and wax me? But like,
hmm
there's just a difference of styles in golf and opportunities. I look at Andrew Presnell, who just hats off to him. He just pushed over 100 wins, absolutely insane. Um, but the dude has won majors. He's gonna win. He's gonna win a pro tour. He's gonna win some bigger events in no time. And the dude's so good. But he goes out and grinds. And those are the type of golf that he likes to play. And like I don't necessarily like playing a local B tier, and I
Mm-hmm.
maybe should because I could maybe gain something from it. But at the same time, I think I could spend a week and a half, 2 weeks working on my form and hitting the field, and I feel better about my golf going into the touring season than I do playing a B tier and scraping through. So I
Totally.
think there's a level of that. There is definitely merit to both, and you just got to find what makes the most sense for you as a golfer.
Totally.
yeah.
I'm hoping to
Um.
get back up I'm hoping to push my rating up. I just want
Yeah.
to go play some good consistent golf next
Yeah.
year. I want to have fun playing disc golf. That's going to be the part of it. And I think my rating will naturally shoot back up, and it's going to be dope. So that
I
is the main goal.
I have to yell at Ian about that sometimes during a tournament.
Yeah,
You could just see him getting so frustrated, and it's like you got to remember to have fun out there.
Yeah.
Like
it's
the
hard.
whole yeah.
And
Competition is innate in us, and it's like you feel it. So
yeah.
those feelings are justified, but at the same time, like I I'm I'm talking to you, Ian, but I'm actually talking to myself right now. It's like it is. Yeah, go enjoy it,
Yeah.
and you're not ever sure when your last round of disc golf is ever going to be, and it's probably not that one.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
don't
for
treat it
sure.
like it is,
I mean,
and I think that's one part I have to remember.
totally. And like do you know who Kai Kim is?
Hmm.
Yeah, so Kai's a good buddy of ours. We go out and play all the time, and we were up at the fort filming a video. Halfway through, we're like, we're stopping. This is just
Yeah,
awful. Like, we're
yeah,
actually like, statistically, from where we had been, we were playing great, but
yeah.
to us, it felt awful. And
Hmm.
I pulled out the reference of like skiing as I ski with some of the best skiers in the world,
Hmm.
and comparison is the death of joy, right?
Hmm.
Yep.
So true.
But skiing with the best skiers in the world, I can keep up and I can have fun, and maybe I'm not
Yeah,
sending a 75-foot cliff where they're backflipping. Maybe I'm just going around and hitting the 40-footer.
yeah.
But when it comes to disc golf, it's such a different competition, right? It's
Hmm.
a different sport. It's a more
So much of it is based on like as well like disc golf at its core is it's you versus the course.
mm-hmm,
It's not you versus everyone else, and I think that we sometimes often forget that, and why it can also feel so frustrating
yeah,
because you're like, I know I'm better than this course. I know I'm better than what I just threw, and I have to try and remind myself and tell players it's like be a sponge, just absorb everything, the
mm-hmm.
bad, the good. Like there is a lesson to be learned, and there's plenty of times you're like, I don't want to learn a lesson today, why? And then but you gotta shift gears and
yeah,
and absorb it. And like again, I'm saying this to you guys but and to the listeners, but this is more for myself than anything.
yeah. No, I love that.
Heck yeah.
I love that. What does the off season look like for you?
Lots of field work, lots of positivity, going to therapists, going to a couple music festivals, just trying to enjoy myself. I'm enjoying a card game called Star Wars Unlimited that I think is super, super good if you're into Magic the Gathering or Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh or anything like that. It's amazing. So I'm going to do a lot of that to kind of be a good distraction from it all, but also then work on my body, work on my game, talk with sponsors, and spend so much time with Tina because she's so dope. Like she's
That's
one of the best
awesome.
human beings I know. She's like her. She just had a part of it. She was a part of an art festival. She does pottery, and she kills it. She's so good, and um, yeah, she's just such a great motivator. So
Hell yeah.
that's pretty much like hoping to. I'm hoping to do a couple videos for disc golf as well. I had a pretty long conversation with Paige and her wife Ayla, today, and it was just kind of about, well, I might not put out as much of my personal stuff, but I will put out some great branded stuff
Totally.
as far as social media goes. Kind of work in silence a little bit more, work on myself a little bit more, but still hype up my companies and use my platform in that way. I know that maybe part of the reason people are following me is because they like to be able to connect with me, but if the people I really want to connect with me is like join my Discord, come to my Twitch streams and stuff like that, I'll be more personable there. But when I'm putting out a little bit more on the social media sides, will be much more, much more to the point of it's disc golf, not hey, this is me, how I'm feeling. And I
Yeah.
think that openness has taken a toll on me, weirdly,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't mean that in a bad way because I've received so much positives. But there's you read a couple gnarly comments that will rock you to your core, and I think that this could be just a reminder to people is like think about think about what you type and say before you send it,
Yeah.
because your opinion totally makes sense, but me saying it in a group of people that it's a safe space to have that opinion and it's not going to really impact or hurt someone is kind of fine, and somebody can check me on that. But when I put it out to the world, it it can be really, really negative and have some gnarly implications. And I think that we should, in general, be looking out for other people and being more positive and doing all we can to just spread more positivity. And yeah, I say that as I get probably, I don't know, 5 times the positive comments to the negative comments, but doesn't mean those negative comments still don't dig and twist and go super, super deep and hurts. I mean, there's only so much that can be done. So just think about what you say.
Totally.
Be positive.
Absolutely. With your field work this year, do you have any new discs that you're trying to put in the bag potentially, or things that you're kind of working through?
Not necessarily. I think the new Trash Panda mid is one that I'm really excited to get my hands on to test in comparison to like the Crux and the Quake and other discs, and go see if it compares to the Pathfinder. That was probably the one that I was most excited about. I have some Doomsday discs and I have some Pro Discus discs that I want to do some videos on and test and compare and see if there's, again, some of these companies I can look to hype up and support. So I'm hopeful in that. But a good uh, a good thought for me is to just kind of get more consistent with my throwing. I don't need to throw farther. I don't need to throw anything. I would much rather throw less far and understand my distance completely and really be. I want to become the most boring golfer I can, because I think that'll help me move my rating up a little bit, because I think that was the problem, is that I was capable of 1080 every single round, but I was also capable of 980 every single round because of that. But if I were to be like, okay, cool, I'm capable of 1060, but then the bare minimum is 1020, it's like I'll take that all day. Like
Yep.
if I can just, like set that to be kind of an example would be fantastic. So hopeful.
I
Sweet.
I think I need to work on that a little bit because I saw towards the end of my season I shot a 940 and an 806 in the same tournament.
Dude, so my first year on tour, I did was it was like as 9:20 in the morning, and then we went to the afternoon, different course. I shot 10:30. It's
Wow.
110 points of a difference. Is wild.
Wow.
It happens. It happens. Like, and
Yeah.
I've heard of bigger swings. I'm not saying
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm sick, but it's like, no, it was early on in my touring. I was like, wow, all right, my rating is what it is because of this factor. Because
Yeah.
I
Yep.
can do that. Like, that's why we got to pull these. Like, it's not always about raising your ceiling. Most of it is like kind of lifting your floor.
Yeah.
Yep.
Than more than anything.
I had one of those this year. I was like, it was like 890 round, almost 900 for an amp
Yep.
player, and like I was stoked on it because my goal by the end of the year was to be like 880 rate or something like that,
Yeah.
and I shoot great round. I'm like, oh, that
Yeah.
was sweet. Next round, blow up. So
Bummer.
so far below my rating, it didn't even get put in my rating. So I was like, thank God.
There was a period where when I was playing, probably when I was hitting close to 1024, is like I didn't, and it was a feature that I loved. Uh, with UDisc, which I would assume PDGA scoring will get there. That I never looked at my rating. I didn't look at my position in the field. I would just get a notification at you're at 1224 with these players, and I would be like, cool, I'll show up at 1224, and I would go. I wouldn't look at what position I was in or anything like that. And I think that's a kind of a system that I would like to get back to, is not thinking about ratings as much anymore. I
Yeah,
know that there's always goals to have, and that's great, but like putting less stress on it, I think, can be pretty helpful.
I would love to see that because my best rounds this year have been when I don't know what my rating is, don't know what my score is, or I'm playing throughout the round. Like Beehive Classic this year, the Q Series, playing an
Yeah.
AM division, just out there having fun. On Chase Card final day, someone walks up to me on 17 from the podcast who like watches. Hey Ian, great shooting today. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? You haven't looked at the scores? I'm like, no. He's like, you need to look. Second place. I started the day in
Let's
eighth,
go, dude.
and I was like, what? That's crazy.
That's
So,
amazing.
like,
There's a beauty to that, man. Like,
yeah,
being ignorance is bliss. I think that's kind of like low key why Gannon Burr is as good as he is that he's a little bit ignorant and he just doesn't know any better. So all he knows is good, and he just
Mhm.
goes out and does it, and
Sure.
it's a beautiful thing to watch. And
Yeah.
I do think he has his own traumas and everything. He's gonna see plenty of things. He's gonna get housed. I mean, the dude lost in a playoff to Drew early in his career, and it's just and he hasn't really looked back. So, um, yeah, I can't often make a joke that Gannon's an asshole when he's one of the nicest people ever, but just how good he is makes him an asshole because he's like, dude, chill. Like, can you just save some birdies for the rest of us?
Yeah.
Like, I mean that in total jest. He
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
such
Yeah.
a good kid. I love Gannon. He's great. We constantly make that joke. It's like, yeah, Gannon's just gonna kick our asses this weekend, and it's
Yeah.
very fun.
Nice.
Cool. We got one last question.
Let's hit it.
We ask everyone who comes on the podcast. Give us a disc that you've been liking lately, favorite disc. Like, just pick a random disc on your wall in your bag and tell us a quick story behind it.
My bag is in the van, but let's see. I got some cool stuff. This one is actually really dope. I did a story on my Instagram. This is this kid's first disc, and he followed me at chess.com, so he gave me that. I haven't thrown it, but still sentimental value, insane. Let's see. What else do I got here? Pick a good one. Man, most of the discs that I have are in the van.
Oh boy, making him think today, Dave.
I know.
All right.
Speaking.
It's
Well, he picks his disc. I do have an Eric Oakley signed Exodus right there on my wall.
That's funny. Like that's kind of outlines up. I'm not gonna do that one. Let's do this one because I can give a shout out to my boy. So, this is a Metal Flake Color Glow Centurion that got me hooked on this disc, and this one is from Alex Twos. So, being able to
oh
shout out
heck
to
yeah.
him, he's local to you guys, and he hooked this one up. I think this is probably still a good thrower. It might actually be a good roller. So, it's like one of the ones that I've actually bagged that are back here. Like a lot of these are new stuff. I
Mm-hmm.
also was gonna, I'll pull this one because it's kind of funny that we were just talking about him. Gannon Burr gave me this randomly, the Gannon Burr Ice in the Veins PA3 from a while back, and it's like he just like handed me this. I was like, dude, you're so sick. He's like, and we just hyping each other up and being funny. So I'd say those two are some good gems
Awesome.
for sure.
Heck yeah.
Heck yeah.
Have you ever played Guts?
I have not played it, but I've done
Yeah.
gut throwing, and I had Simon throwing at me. It was terrifying.
Oh gee.
Yeah, and
That is.
and it was wild. But watching twos go out and get that dub is so sick.
Yeah.
So sick.
Yeah,
That's
it's wild. And like he
crazy.
had what I think Creekside Open, he had one of the discs. I didn't realize how like light they were.
Dude,
Like it's
they're
actually
crazy.
hard. Yeah.
Yeah, they're weird to throw and they fly funny and they like it's like you think that it's like a lid, but it's not. It's
Mhm.
definitely different. But
Yeah.
such a cool sport, and twos is one of the best. That catch he made, unreal.
Yeah.
Absolutely unreal.
Crazy.
So cool.
Yeah.
Sweet.
I appreciate you guys so much. This
No.
is I mean I when we met at another round Salt Lake, loved the concept. Bad throws, good bros is great, and I think that that's just a beautiful thing. And I appreciate you both.
Yeah.
Keep killing
Well,
Thank you.
we
Thank
appreciate you for coming on here. This has
Yeah.
been a long time coming. You know, I didn't want to bug you during
Yeah.
the season. I knew you were a busy man, but glad I got you on here.
Yeah, me too.
How can these people that for some reason don't know you but know us, how can they go find you?
Find me.
And support you.
Yeah, the Eric Oakley. Go to infinitedisc.com, search my name, buy those discs. Go to whalesax.com, support Alpha, support Dot Space, support Birdie Fuel, Coffee, support the Pro Tour, and just support any businesses in your local area that are supporting disc golf. So those are great ways because the more disc golf grows, hopefully the more I can keep doing this and we all win. So
Awesome.
yeah,
Heck yeah, dude.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Eric.
stay awesome, boys.
We'll see you later.